Today's episode is called How to Be a Conservative Without Being a Coon. Just kidding. Okay, just kidding. We are going to talk about the rise and the fall of the token Republican, the token Black Republican. And I think this is really important right now because we are seeing a major shift in politics. And I'm going to say something, this is going to be a little off script right now. But Candace Owens was the first person to see this, and she dipped out. When she was at the Daily Wire and she realized that all that talk about identity politics being horrible and no group is above another, but she got banished for speaking on the sacred people. She realized, oh, I was a token, I was a pawn in your game, and she let everybody know. Now, a lot of Black people are like, you can't come over to us now. She doesn't want to. She doesn't want to. So that's okay. What she was letting you know is, hey, they are using Black people as tokens in all of these groups. They actually don't care. They're actually using these people. They have rules for thee, but not for me. And she's the only Black Republican to come out of that movement and to say it. Actually, I'm lying. Her and Amazing Lucas are the only ones. Now, Lucas has gone a little cuckoo for me, but I still appreciate his honesty. Because the truth is that when you're a Black Republican versus a Black conservative, you are bound by white Republican talking points that are targeted to the lower class of America. And poor white people hate Black people more than they hate anything. They typically, their villain is our Black people, whereas wealthy white people, their villain is anybody who has more money than them. They don't really care about Black people like that. That's not their real true angst. And you have to understand that once you've been in the world for long enough and you've like passed through social classes, you'll start to understand that. But that's an aside. So let's talk about the token Black Republicans and their foolery, their tomfoolery, and why, they act in a fool. So for years, commentators like Brandon Tatum, Anthony Bryan Logan, Jason Whitlock, and others held this unique position within the Republican Party. They were the, see, we're not racist. Our Black friend agrees with us, representatives in conservative media. And I have to be completely transparent with you guys. I have never been a Republican. I've never been a Democrat. I can't get with either party because I saw this from a mile away. I'm going to do a Democrat token too. Don't you worry. Their purpose was not to challenge the Republicans, it was to actually validate them. And for a lot of people, they fell for it. And this was like pretty pervasive up until 2020. 2020 is when things started changing. After 2020, when we had COVID, we had the riots, we had, just an onslaught of negative media for Black people. It was Black Lives Matter. White conservatives stopped needing Black validators. Before, there were things that white conservatives, or white, I'm sorry, I'm going to say white Republicans, felt like they couldn't say. So they had their Black people say it for them. And Candace Owens told us as such. She said, hey, when I was over at the Daily Wire, they encouraged me to say these things about Black people because they couldn't say them. They felt like they couldn't say them. Now you have Matt Walsh just being openly racist, because nobody cares. They stopped whispering, they stopped softening, they stopped pretending. They were saying the quiet parts out loud. And they said it proudly and boldly, and no attempt to clean it up for PR, which is wild because the way they yell at Nick Fuentes, like they're not saying the exact same thing in just coded language, is absolutely crazy to me. I'm like, oh, y'all sound just like Nick Fuentes, but you don't hear it because you think you're better than him because you're not saying it so harshly. Because of that shift, the utility of the token Republican has decreased. Like there's no use for them. The audience is no longer seeking like racial cover. And so, because they're not seeking racial cover, the people who provided that cover are starting to lose relevance. Brandon Tatum is losing his relevance. Jason Whitlock is losing his relevance. And people are starting to see them for who they are, shills. That's exactly what they are. Now, this doesn't mean that they don't have conservative values, but I wonder if their conservative values are aligned with republicanism more than they are with conservatism. And this is where I want to get into the talk about Black Republicans versus Black conservatives because they are not the same. A Black Republican is bound to party talking points. What are Republican Party talking points? There's no racism. Racism has no effect on Black lives. There's no such thing as systemic issues. And if there are, we don't talk about it. We focus more on the fact that Black people are criminals, which again, some of this is true, right? You're not going to catch me lying. So that's one thing that I'm not going to do is I'm not going to lie. They're white political gatekeepers. So in order to be in our group, you have to think like us. They are on Fox News and they will do whatever ensures access, viewership, and sponsorship. You will see these people, like there's one, I don't even want to say her name because I feel like she's going to come out of it soon. But when she talks, I'm like, you don't really believe that, do you? It's almost like I know what I need to say to get white people to go, oh, you're a cool one. You're a cool inner. You're one of us. Versus telling the truth, which is, yeah, the truth is that yes, there are some long-lasting effects of discrimination that have affected the Black community. And at the same time, there are some cultural things that Black people need to address to get their lives together. Two things can be true at the same time, but if you're a Black Republican, you cannot address the former. Their beliefs, as a Black Republican, their beliefs are shaped by alignment and not authenticity. They can't deviate. You notice how Brandon Tatum can't say anything positive about Black people unless they are Republicans. He has to wait. It's sick. It's actually really, really sick. And whenever there's some sort of like issue in the media or there's some kind of with like a Black criminal or Black people, it's he jumps right on it. You can't critique their side. He will never critique Trump. He will never critique Marjorie Taylor Greene unless he gets a yes from his daddy up top that says, oh, you can criticize this person. See, for a while, people weren't allowed to criticize Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, Ally Beth Stuckey, Matt Walsh, right? They weren't, because it was like a little cohort. They would say, don't talk about these people. And so Black people will sit there and go, yes, massa. These Black Republicans will go, yes, massa. I won't say anything negative, massa. They can't think independently because their position in the Republican machine depends on them agreeing and not thinking. A Black Republican's job is to repeat, to reinforce, redirect blame away from the party, and punish Black people for not conforming. And this is why you often hear the same talking points in every single video from every single Black conservative. And there's a channel that I really like listening to called the Radical Black Conservative because um she's actually a conservative. She's not a Republican. And so and let me just say this as an aside. If you're really a conservative, you're going to be far too conservative for Republicans because you're going to tell the truth. And part of being conservative is telling the truth. A Black conservative is different from a Black Republican. A Black conservative is actually guided by biblical conviction. Now, Republicans will tell you they're guided by biblical conviction, but they like to take out the parts about hating your neighbor. you know, some of the moral values. They don't like they like the personal responsibility for Black people, but they don't like the personal responsibility for white people, right? So when that white woman walked into that police officer's room uh apartment and killed him, Black Republicans were silent. They were silent because personal responsibility is only for Black people, it's not for white people. But personal responsibility biblically is for everybody, right? The Black conservative is built by cultural or religious tradition, independent thought, and community accountability. So we're looking at everybody and going, what do we need to do? A Black conservative is not required to demonize Black people. Now, listen, you're going to hear me talk poorly about everybody. right? Because everybody can get it over here. But if all your commentary on Black people is demonizing, you have a mental problem. You guys notice how Megan Kelly, I gotta make another video on her. She's a weirdo. She has this obsession with Black women. It's kind of strange. Like she's always talking about Michelle Obama and half quarter black Meghan Markle. Like she has this weird obsession with black, but that's part of the Republican drift. Grift is the Republican grift is you got to talk badly about, but you got to call Michelle Obama a man. That's part of it. It's like knowing good and well that if Michelle Obama was a man candidate, someone would have found it out. She would have told you guys. You have to mock black people when they call out rightful racism because there is racism in the Republican Party. And you have to pretend that racism has been solved. Now, here's where I'm going to tell you my personal view. Racism will never be solved. But you have to know that it exists so you know what you're getting into as a black person. As a black conservative, I'm going, okay, I know that a lot of people are racist. So how I move, knowing that will change how I will move differently knowing that. But I don't expect anybody to change because I can't change hearts. Black conservatives are not required to echo white commentators to stay employed. And that's a big thing. If you ever watch Brandon Tatum, Jason Whitlock, they will say the same things. Ironically, Nick Fuentes pointed this out. He called Brandon Tatum a token, and he knows it. And they don't see. We think, well, Black Republicans think that they're respected. No, these people do not respect them. They are like, you're weak, you're a token, you're being used. But at the end of the day, we will throw you out and spit you out because you're not one of us, meaning you're not a white Republican. And the sooner Black conservatives and Black Republicans can get on the same page, the better off we will be. Because a lot of Black Republicans, there is this need, there's vying for acceptance, whereas Black conservatives don't need to be accepted. Black conservatives, so people are like, oh, you want to be, they'll never accept you, baby. I don't want to be accepted by them. That's where I differ from Brandon Tatum and Jason Whitlock. I don't want to be accepted by them. They need the acceptance. So Black conservatives can say, I agree with the principle. I believe in responsibility, but I also recognize the systemic issues. A Black conservative is not owned by the Republican Party. Because when you're owned by the Republican Party, you actually do not have a voice. You are a mouthpiece. You are a jigaboo. That's the distinction that nobody talks about. Let's talk about why the token era is ending. Conservatives used Black voices heavily from 2016 to 2020 because they needed racial legitimacy. They needed to pull some Black people in to the Republican Party. They needed to buffer against accusations of racism. And they needed the optics of diversity because let's be real, although a lot of minorities do vote Republican, we have to be honest about that. What was presented in the media were a bunch of white women and men. And so the Democratic Party could really play on that. So what the Republican Party did is they said, okay, we're going to have our Black Latino, we're going to have our conservative Latino, we're going to have our conservative Asian, we're going to have our conservative Black or Republican Black. And that's because they needed someone to talk to the people, right? Because again, both sides believe in identity politics, meaning they both believe that, oh, well, if a Black person says it, then Black people will listen. Or if a white person says it, white people will listen. Or an Asian person says it, Asian people will listen. But we don't need that now. The Overton window has shifted where white people are saying all kinds of outrageous things online. They are saying things that their Black tokens once softened. And they no longer care about being inclusive or imbalanced. And you can say, thanks to social media, this is the case. So the Black Republican who once provided cover is now being phased out because the audience doesn't even want that. They want raw, unfiltered cultural talk, so to speak. This makes the token Black commentator obsolete. This makes them obsolete because Black Republicans were voting Republican to be a Republican. Black conservatives are voting on the issues. So here's the real issue with with Brandon Tatum and Jason Whitlock. First of all, I don't believe that they're Christians, to be honest, but never mind on that. Being a Black Republican requires an audience. It's anchored in attention. You have to agree with the GOP. You have to attack your community to keep your job. And this is why people side eye the Tatums, the Whitlocks, the ABL, because they're not leaders, they're followers and they're echoers. And they're saying whatever their majority white conservative audience wants to hear. And on the other hand, Black conservatives don't have to compromise their worldview or their integrity to have a point. And here's the wild part, you guys. If you ever go under one of Brandon Tatum's videos or ABL's videos or Jason Whitlock's videos, the minute they say something out of line, they're getting called all types of N words and, you know, blackies because their own audience doesn't respect them. And this is the real difference. Black conservatives are maintaining their dignity. Republicans are not. So just be careful, just something to look out for, you guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next episode.